did you just kind of work your way into that? Okay, so
Okay.
let's see. Today we're joined with Mr. Mark Messmer, an individual that I previously worked at one of my previous logistics places of employment. Mr. Messmer at that time was a human resources manager. So without further ado, let me have Mr. Messmer start talking to us. Mark, tell us a little bit about yourself right now, what you do, maybe some of the things that you've done, how you perhaps got to where you're at. I mean, just give us a little rundown on what you as a human resources professional does.
Okay. Well, Erica, it's good talking to you. Um, so, folks, let's see here. I'm old. I graduated Northern Kentucky University in 1994. Probably some of you weren't even born then.
Well, most of them,
Um,
all of them.
my first computer class was at Northern Kentucky University, in which we had to do complicated stuff like formatting a floppy disk. You probably don't even know what a floppy disk is. And we had to do big stuff in DOS. This is before Windows even started. So we would be in DOS prompts, forward backslash semicolon, and that's how I learned. That was my first computer. That was my first computer class. And my first computer was actually a 486 DX with a Boco modem, and that
Right.
was
That
there was no there were no cell phones. When I joined, let's see, when I graduated college in '94. I immediately started to work. I graduated with industrial labor relations degree from Northern, with an area concentration in social work and effective communication training and development. So I went to work as a payroll processor for Laboratory Corporation of America, and
now,
I.
I mean, payroll is definitely an important function. I mean, that's definitely a big part of human resources. I mean, how in the first place did you even learn about human resources? What got you onto that? Did you start out originally in college thinking that that's what you wanted to do, or did you just kind of happen upon it?
Well, I had a really good guidance counselor. I started out as a social work major, and then through the several co-ops that I did, I got a very distaste for bureaucracy in dealing with. I have a problem with a family that in need, and I've got to jump through six hoops to get problems solved, and that was very frustrating. So, professor had told me about this HR program there at Northern, and I took that program, and that was it. So I had a really
Okay.
good guidance counselor.
Okay. So, let's see. So originally, you're processing payroll, a very basic.
Processing payroll, and fundamentally, once you learn payroll, and it's not just about putting the hours on a check. There's calculations, there's taxes. Um, Direct deposit was a big thing back then. Um, as I said, we still process manual checks. There was a great deal of understanding about different states and their laws in regards to break rules, lunch rules, rounding rules on time cards, rounding rules on time clocks. So fundamentally, um, I I learned a lot, and payroll's payroll. It doesn't change. I mean, the systems change, but how the law under the FLSA, which is the Fair Labor Standards Act, reacts to payroll hasn't changed.
Okay. So obviously, you didn't do payroll your entire life. Where did you go at working? And is it LabCorp?
LabCorp is where I was for 2 years, and then I went to a logistics company that you were working at the time,
Oh,
Eric, with PDS,
okay.
and then that name then transferred over to TFE,
Mhm.
and we ran little distribution centers. I started with Caterpillar Logistics out of Sharonville,
Mhm.
and I think you were in Indiana somewhere with Caterpillar.
Correct.
And then you and I, because we were young and didn't mind working 20 hours a day, they stuck us over at this, then 500,000 square foot uh, Adidas distribution center over in Hebron, in which I started out as a supervisor on second shift. I think you were a supervisor too, and then an HR position became available, which that was what I was much more suited for, and then moved up in the ranks. And then finally, before leaving there in 2006, I was their regional HR manager.
Okay. So, I mean, what were some of the other responsibilities that I mean, obviously there was payroll exposure. I mean, what are some of the other things that you during your HR career in the past have some of the things that you've been involved with?
Well, at least from the organizations that I have worked for, I've been very blessed to have been exposed to many different accounts. And the accounts vary between transportation and distribution. In some cases, a combination of both. But human resources encompasses safety. Um, that could be OSHA compliance. That could be workers' compensation, dealing with individuals that are out on injury, um, getting them back to work, understanding the rules of each particular state in regards to their workers' compensation laws. It could deal with training and development, in which you are training a workforce in a particular task or training a management staff on particular items to make them more successful in managing their operations.
Mhm.
It could deal with benefits, on what benefits you're offering. It could deal with waiting periods. It could deal with COBRA, meaning that individuals who have left the organization. It could deal with individuals on leave of absence, personal leave of absence, FMLA. It could also deal with accommodations in the Americans with Disability Acts and understanding what you have to do to comply with federal and state statutes in regards to individuals that present with a disability.
Yeah. I mean, I know that, I mean, my employer right now, the Boone County Schools, when I want to talk to somebody in human resources, I go to the website and it lists all these people, and they have like a different human resources manager for all sorts of different categories. If you've got an issue with payroll, you're going to talk to this person. If you've got a benefits question, you're going to talk to this person. If there's, I believe, if there are, I think there's like a workplace or a workers' compensation type of person. I mean, there's just a lot of different areas within the field of human resources. I mean, the most important ones, oftentimes, to people who are there getting paid, are obviously payroll, but then benefits come soon thereafter. And are always important to employees. But kind of like what you're mentioning, I mean, there are all sorts of other things that individuals in human resources that they get exposed to, and really have to cover, because I mean you're rattling off, Mark, a lot of different laws that are thrown at companies from a state basis, from a federal basis, and heck, sometimes maybe even locally, certain things that you have to ensure are covered for just all sorts of things. So,
To give you an Eric, to give you an instance on that, we've got facilities up in New York, we've got facilities out in California, and you've got to be absolutely aware of what minimum wage requirements are in different municipalities and different states and in different counties within. But also within the HR arena, you also have a very important aspect, which is recruiting and retention, being
yep.
able to recruit talented individuals, and in some cases, very, very, very difficult technical positions that you might be recruiting for nationally or internationally.
Okay.
Um, my career has taken me to mostly anything within the United States, but you've got to be very cognizant of then INS, but now Homeland Security in regards to I-9 documentation and E-Verify. It's E-Verify now is the big way to verify individuals that are legally able to work in the United States.
Mhm.
And then you also have to be cognizant of your workplace in regards to union or non-union facilities. So if you are an organization that wants to remain non-union, you have to have a pulse of your facilities, and it's like, are you having problems with potential union activity? I spent a lot of my time we do have a couple union accounts, and those accounts are more difficult when you are dealing with an employee relations matter. An employee relations matter would be like a discipline issue or a harassment investigation, and that you not only have to follow the laws of the state, municipality, and the federal government, but then you've got to follow the laws outlined in that collective bargaining agreement. So those are just a few of the items, but you have to also be prepared to, you're the advocate for the employee, and you're also in a situation where you've got to be able to independently and unbiasedly investigate a matter that may come before you. I mean, in my years, I probably have investigated 500 or 600 cases of sexual harassment in the workplace and many cases of violence. And, you just have to go in with the understanding that you've never seen, it's never the same day twice. And you've got to be very reactionary from a standpoint of you don't want your employees to think that you are not capable or your organization doesn't care, and you want to be very timely with requests that are made by the organization and by the organization's employees, both internal and external, management, hourly, etc. So it is a niche market, very very difficult to break into HR. You got to figure that an organization, probably you have one HR person to about 80 to 120 employees. So it is exceptionally niche market. It's hard to get into. And what my encouragement to anybody who's asked me, how do I get into HR, is like, don't be scared to start at the bottom. And as I said, I started, 30 years ago as a payroll processor. Mm-hmm. And worked for different organizations, and have had the opportunity to travel the country, probably more than I've ever wanted to. But don't be scared to start in a coordinator position or an HR admin position, if that's something that you are interested in doing. It's a lot of confidentiality, and it is a tremendous amount of knowledge of regulations. Your managers are going to call you at anytime, day or night, that, I've got an employee who's under the influence of an intoxicating substance in Nebraska, and it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and they're calling me wanting advice, and you have to be able to be available to be able to give them the best advice so they can, deal with the situation.
Now, Mark, maybe you can tell us a little bit about the current company that you work for. You're talking about different types of accounts and different places in the country where these accounts are located. Tell us a little bit about what you do right now and what your job functions are, Mark.
My organization is based out of Alpharetta, Georgia, and we manage truck fleets and distribution centers for organizations who want to focus on their core competencies, which is growing their business. So we go in and we manage their truck fleet and we manage their warehouse operations.
Okay.
By that, mean that we take care of all of the DOT compliance. We take care of all of the workers' comp, all of the benefits, all of the payroll, all of the recruiting, all of the retention, all of the training.
Mhm.
And we manage that element of the business for our various clients throughout the country.
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about the term 3PL, and several of the young people here that are out on internship that are seniors. Several of them work in places that actually employ 3PLs, and again, kind of like what you said, a 3PL, which is what your company currently is right now, a third-party logistics provider. And the service that they offer to companies is the ability to allow the company that employs the 3PL to focus on what they are oftentimes doing best. The 3PL focuses on some of the maybe not some of the most exciting stuff, but I mean a lot of times I've talked about how the whole concept of distribution, and you mentioned things like trucking. I mean, it's not something that a lot of companies are super awesome at doing, but it's definitely a part of their business, and they would oftentimes rather focus on their core business as opposed to being really good at doing payroll for all the people that work in their distribution center, even sometimes running the distribution center, hiring people, whether they're truck drivers, hourly associates in distribution centers, whatever the case. I mean, a lot of companies just don't want to do it, and as a result, they employ companies like yours, Mark, and companies that you and I have both worked for in the past. So, um,
One of the reasons that 3PLs are popular, especially in the transportation distribution world, is the amount of regulation that goes into hiring a truck driver and understanding the dynamics on what type of licensure is needed for that truck driver, what type of medical evaluation is needed, how many hours a day that truck driver can be in a certain truck, um, at a and understanding the logging and the federal regulations associated with a truck driver. You
mhm,
know, truck drivers get a bad rap because they are slow. I mean, trucks that the tractor trailers that you see on the road, they can't exceed 80,000 pounds. That's including the tractor, the trailer, and their cargo without special permits. Um, and individuals that try to play chicken and cut tractor trailers off, you know, they can't stop on a dime. You know, they throw up water from their rear tandems when it rains. They go slow in in heavily trafficked areas such as, you know, heavy red lights and
yep,
whatnot. But they get a bad rap. But at the end of the day, there is a tremendous amount of regulation that has to accompany that truck driver. Hiring one truck driver could cost an organization $5,000 to $6,000 before the driver even hits the road on making a delivery.
mhm,
So if you're an organization that, you know, if you have 20 truck drivers or 30 truck drivers, for an organization like us to come in and manage that burden for you, it's very palatable for organizations to say, here, take that. And by the way, take this too, so I can focus on growing my business.
mhm. Yeah, I mean, it's yeah, definitely a field within logistics, the 3PL, where there's definitely opportunities for young people. I mean, just logistics in general, but definitely when you're talking about 3PLs, there's definitely an opportunity to get your foot in the proverbial door there. Mark, at any time, if you need to drop off, definitely let me know. Uh,
You're good. And see, Eric, where you and I worked, you know, hand in hand from an HR perspective. See, the HR person is intertwined with the operation. Operation wants to add a particular shift at a particular time, and you know you've got to look at your source recruiting from a standpoint of, I'm located here. Is it on a bus line? Is there transportation? Do I have skilled labor in that market to be able to satisfy the needs of my operation? Is there childcare provided? You've got a myriad of different things that your operations folks are relying on you for, and they're gonna say, okay, this is the shift that we want. This is the skill that we're looking for. What type of economics can we put into this position to make sure that we are profitable, but yet still competitive? So there's a lot that goes into, there's with the organization that we had worked for with Adidas America. I mean, there was tremendous seasonality where you needed individuals, you needed to be able to flex your workforce. Well, your ops people, they're relying on your HR group to be able to flex a workforce, 300 people in one particular season. So it's not just the paperwork portion of HR. There's the strategic aspect of it while you're working with the operations on, hey, I've got a new lane of traffic coming in, and this is going to be a team route, and I need to be able to go from, Cincinnati to Charlotte on on an 18-hour turn. And then you've got to understand what dynamics is going to go into providing the labor for that. But it's not just knowing the laws. It's being able to partner with your operations, because they're going to tell you, hey, I want this done. I want it done yesterday. And you've got to work them through all of the details. I mean, we had a one heck of a back to school season there at Adidas one year, and the labor force, we couldn't get enough people, so we decided that we were going to use minors, 16 and 17-year-olds, which poses another problem from a standpoint of compliance with wage and hour law in Kentucky. So you have to be able to go to the operation and say, okay, this is the labor pool I want, but they can't be around this type of equipment. They can only work these hours. So you are intertwined with that operation, and the operation is the profitable end of the business.
Yep.
HR is there for one reason, and we're there to protect the company. We are there to protect the company. Everything else is secondary. We do not want litigation. We do not want EEOC charges, Kentucky civil rights charges, OCR, which Ohio civil rights charges. We are there to protect the company. That is our number one goal, is to protect the company. Everything else is secondary.
Okay. Yeah, it's there's a lot of there's a lot of pressure and a lot of demands for the individuals in the field of human resources, and it's definitely something that every organization needs. It's definitely something that a lot of times people don't think about, other than maybe just when they are onboarded, when they first start a position. But I mean, there's a lot of other things that are relied upon by the operation, by the people that work in the operation of that HR department at a particular company, that is very important for the company and for the worker alike. So let's see. I mean, Mark, I mean, what are perhaps what might be one thing that you really maybe enjoy about your job, and maybe another thing that maybe not so much? What are some of those things?
HR people, a lot of people in the organization fear us, because I say, okay, I get HR's here. Who's going to get fired? Or who's going to get laid off? And unfortunately, we are in those conversations where somebody has violated a particular policy, or we're in a situation where we have to reduce workforce. It's unfortunate that we are involved in those. Those are the worst situations, when you have to fire somebody. And I mean, unfortunately, I've had to fire quite a few people. Over the years, and it's very unfortunate. The day that ever becomes joyful is a day that I need to get out of the practice. It's horrible having to lay off people. It's horrible to have to fire people. But it's also very, very, very nice feeling to be able to offer an employee an opportunity that betters them and their family. because you can offer more money and more benefits to them, and that is extremely uh, um, uh, I guess, how do I say that? It's extremely inspiring to me to an
Yeah.
individual that that you can see that who's interviewing, and they've been with an organization, they've been with several organizations and haven't been able to make that fit, and you can get them to join your current organization, and it's a win-win. Those are great triumphs.
And a lot of times, I mean, going hand in hand with the firing of someone because perhaps they've done something that has violated a policy or a rule of an organization that you've been a part of. But at the same time, oftentimes you are fixing a situation perhaps for someone else. If someone is doing something that is wrong and not appropriate, perhaps in the workplace, I mean, you are someone that is able to make things right, make the workplace better for that individual by taking care of someone who may not have been towing the line as far as rules go. So, um, yeah, it's not just all horrible things. It's not just when you see the HR person, something bad is going to happen. Sometimes it does, but there's definitely some other positives, and I'm glad that you've got some of those. So. Let's see. I mean, Mark, I really appreciate your time today. I mean, you've carved out a little spot for me, and I appreciate it very much. My class appreciates it. I mean, this is something that we try to do, and I try and expose individuals to various parts of the world of logistics, and human resources is definitely a very important part of it. So, Mr. Messmer, thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate it. And with that being said, I'll let you go. Okay.
All right, Eric. I wish you well and wish your class well. I'll see
All
you
right.
later.
Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.
So, Mark, I appreciate that very much. Um, yeah, no, that was awesome. You touched on a lot of things that will definitely allow me to go into a little more in depth. Um, but yeah, I mean, a lot of people they don't know what I say human resources a lot, and I talk about some of the things, but you touched on a lot of things. I think it was also good that you mentioned not feeling or not wanting to always or don't not always having to go in at the very top. I mean, I hate to say it, sometimes young people have a very unrealistic expectation of whenever they enter into an organization. I'm sure there have been plenty of things, especially at the beginning of your career, and maybe even now, that you don't like, but that's just part of it. I mean, I tell, let's see, I mean, I tell kids all the time when they don't want to do homework that, I mean, I hate to say it, it's just one of these obstacles that is put in their way that they just have to get over if they ultimately want to get that high school diploma. And there's a lot of things like that in the workplace where they are. I mean, they just got to get over hurdles. There's just some things in their day that they might not like, and they got to do anyway. And it's not an option to say, no, I won't. So that was a good part. So that'll definitely elicit some discussion there. So I appreciate it, Mark. Yeah, really appreciate it. You carved out some time for me, and I am grateful for that. Okay. Mark, are you there? Mark, are you there?